Hello and welcome. Today we'll be using Terraform to provision an EC2 instance in which we'll launch Jenkins and SonarQube. SonarQube will be launched through the Docker image, and then we'll also use Trivy to scan the SonarQube. We'll also launch a web page for the SonarQube on port 9000 and a web page for Jenkins on port 8080. Let's have a look at the AWS console. We can see that no instances are currently running and no security groups related to the project has currently been created. So default and another one. We'll be creating a Jenkins security group. Also, please note we will be creating a EC2 key pair. You can do this at any point. So to create it, I've named mine deployer key. So create it. Type in whatever name you would like and then keep it as a PEM file and create the pair. We'll be referencing this within the Terraform documentation. Let's get started on the Terraform code. Okay, first we need to establish the provider file. Here we can see in the provider file we've detailed a minimum Terraform version of 0.12 and above. And we've also specified the provider and region US West 1. You're free to use whichever region you would like, but please remember the AMIs that we will be referencing are region locked. So next we need to build out our security group. Here we can see our security group. I've created various roles for HTTPS, SSH, Jenkins, SonarQube, HTTP, and an egress rule to allow all. There are a few ways of doing this, but just for simplicity's sake, I've kept the rules within the security group Terraform file and not used a variable or myvars. To explain the ingress rules, the SSH is what we're going to be using for the AWS Connect, so we need to open that. Jenkins, as you well know, would be 8080. SonarQube will be 9000. We've also left the CIDR blocks open for all ports. This isn't standard practice, but as it's a demo and will not be sustained long term, it should be okay. Following that, we can create our main file which references our security group. Within our main file, we describe the instance, T2 large, key name, which is optional, but we've created one. The security group, which is Jenkins, SG, and the user data, which we want to add as the template file or as file, and we're going to tell it to look within the current directory. I've included some commented out ways of including the install.sh, well, the install shell script, which we are going to create. I'll explain more about the shell script once we've created it, but these options of how to reference it within the main Terraform file are ways you might see elsewhere, and just wanted to make you aware of that. Also to note, the volume size will be 30. And now finally, we need to create the shell file. We'll be using this to install Jenkins, Docker, Trivy, as well as escalating privileges. So to explain the shell script, we'll be first installing Java. These Java instructions are for Amazon Linux. I've included the yes prompt for all of them, and I've also included echo for when it's installing and completed for each process actually, so I can go back and check these within the cloud logs. If anything goes wrong, I could see where it stopped or where the errors are. I'll also be installing Jenkins. Again, this is for installing Jenkins on Amazon Linux, broken down where it imports the keys and sudo su to become root. The sudo cat initial admin password isn't needed within the script, but I can keep it here for reference if anybody wants to use it. We'll probably use this once we've launched the web page. And to install Docker, I've included the Docker instructions and as well as sudo su again, because we would need to restart the terminal so the Docker permissions take effect. Within here, I've asked it to run the detached mode of SonarQube, giving it port 9000 SonarQube name and tag latest straight away. So once I run docker ps, I should see this running. And finally, installing Trivy. There is another way to do this on Amazon Linux, but I felt this was the simplest way, and then echo once it's installed. Okay, so that's all done now. So let's Terraform initialize, or first save. Okay, once that's been initialized, we can now Terraform plan and apply. We can see the resources being added to the security group, all of the rules we've created, as well as the Jenkins instance. Alright, so that's great. We can now launch this. This should be relatively quick. 2 resources being added to the plan. Okay, so these resources have been added, and we can see it's up and running straight away. First, to double check that the shell script is here, we can look into user data, and we can see it's all here as intended, which is great. Now we would want to connect to this. Okay, interestingly enough, we've connected as EC2 user. We can amend that when we request the initial connection, but we can also change it within the console, which is no problem. So first, docker ps. Alright, so let's just upgrade our privileges. Okay, interesting. So it seems like may not be running as intended. So first we can check the cloud logs, make sure everything has been installed or what has failed. Okay. Can't believe I'm troubleshooting already. So pull, this is, okay, Docker information. So Docker's just finished, I'm assuming. It's the, yeah, more Docker stuff. And you can see Jenkins is done. Alright, so it looks like everything went off okay. And then the upgrade packages. So it looks like everything went off okay, so yeah. Yeah, so Docker is running. We can also check that Trivy is running as well with Trivy version. Great, we can see the version and it's up and running. So let's open up these ports. We can use the public IP address here. And then first port 8080. And copy again. Port 9000. Okay, great. Yep, so we know Jenkins is up and running. And as I mentioned before, we don't really need to add this into the script because we can just grab it here. Well, we can add it into the script and then find it through the cloud logs, but it seems like a lot of effort. And because we have root access, permissions aren't denied here. I'm not sure if that actually copied. And SonarQube's running, so if we admin should log us in. I'm not sure what that was. While we let that load, we'll have a look through SonarQube. You can change the password to whatever you like, actually. And now let's scan this with Trivy. So to scan it is Trivy image and then the container image name. which is SonarQube latest. Okay, great. While that loads, and this loads as well. Yep, so back to the Jenkins one. Once it's loaded, we'll just skip and continue as admin. We're not going to be doing much with Jenkins in this instance, but just to show you how you can set up and integrate it as of here, and then we can run any builds or include it into any CI/CD pipelines that we have or plan to create. Same with SonarQube. And now the scans are finished, so we can see there's a few Log4j's vulnerabilities, medium and high, and we also have a Woodstock's vulnerability. Interesting. So yeah, that's the main part of the video done. So now we can destroy this resource. And yeah, that's how we use Terraform to provision EC2 with Jenkins and SonarQube. If there's anything else you would like to see, please let me know.